The sky of Vareth burned red as ships fell from orbit like dying stars. The Varn people ran through the ruined streets, their cries echoing across the mountains. The Threx Dominion's machines rolled through the smoke, crushing everything in their path. No one could stop them. The last of the Varn Council sent their final message to the stars, a desperate plea for help. Then the lights in their command center went dark. Far away in the blue skies of Earth, the message arrived. It passed through radio telescopes and communication arrays until it reached the United Nations Interplanetary Command. The signal was weak but clear, a call for mercy. The translation showed words of desperation, begging anyone who could hear to save them from extinction. For a long time, the room stayed silent. Captain Han Seok stood at the back of the chamber, his hands clasped behind him. He was a tall man with calm eyes, a soldier who had seen more than he wanted to remember. Around him, officers whispered about politics and risk. No one wanted to interfere in another war that did not belong to Earth. But Han felt something different in the message. It was not just a cry for survival, it was a cry for hope. When the vote finally passed, the mission was approved. Earth would send help not as conquerors but as rescuers. The world watched as the first human fleet left orbit, led by the battleship Daehan's Glory. Its hull shone silver under the sunlight, marked with the flag of the United Earth Command. Hansuk stood on the bridge beside his second-in-command, Kim Auriam. She was quiet, sharp-minded, and loyal. The crew trusted her completely. "Course is set, Captain," Auriam said. "We reach Vareth in 5 days through the relay gates." Han nodded slowly. "Let's make it count. No mistakes. We're not just going to fight. We're going to show them what it means to be human." As the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, the crew felt the hum of energy through the deck. Many of them were nervous. Humanity had never gone to war beyond their solar system. Some whispered that this was a mistake, that Earth was too small to face whatever was out there. But others, like Han, believed this was a chance to prove something greater, that compassion was not weakness. 5 days later, they arrived. The world of Vareth came into view, surrounded by fire and debris. Space itself looked wounded. The Threx fleet was still there, black ships with sharp edges like knives. They noticed the human vessel and turned to attack. Without hesitation, Han gave the order, "Target the lead ships. Fire when ready." The Daehan's Glory came alive. Its railguns roared with thunder. Plasma cannons fired streams of light that tore through the enemy lines. The Threx ships were fast but unprepared for human technology. Within minutes, half their formation was gone. The others tried to retreat, but Auriam gave the next command. "Finish them." The last Threx cruiser exploded, lighting the dark like a sunrise. The battle was over. The humans had won. Han stood silent for a moment, watching the wreckage drift away. "Recover the survivors," he said, "and send a message to the planet. Tell them we're here." Shuttles descended through the smoke and ash. Human soldiers in armor stepped onto alien soil for the first time. The air was heavy with dust and death. They found survivors hiding under the ruins, thin, weak, but alive. The Varn had smooth gray skin and wide eyes full of fear. When they saw the humans, some tried to hide, thinking another invasion had come. But Han knelt down before them and removed his helmet. "It's all right," he said softly. "We're here to help." One of the Varn elders looked up at him, trembling. "You heard us?" Han nodded. "We heard your call." That night, the humans set up camps for the survivors. Medical drones worked beside human doctors, and food was shared among both species. Auriam helped a small Varn child drink from a water pouch, smiling faintly as the child smiled back for the first time in days. Around the campfires, human soldiers watched the horizon, guarding the wounded with silent eyes. When morning came, Han met with the Varn Council remnants. They spoke of the Threx, how they came without warning, burning cities and taking prisoners. No one had helped them. The Galactic Council had turned away. Han listened carefully, anger slowly building in his chest. "Why didn't anyone help you?" he asked. "They said we were not important," one of the elders whispered. "They said the Dominion was too strong." Han stood up, his voice low. Then they were wrong. The communication officer approached him soon after. "Captain, we have a message drafted for transmission back to Earth." Han looked at it. Then he shook his head. "No," he said. "Send it to the entire council network." The officer hesitated. "Sir, are you sure?" "Yes, let them hear it." Moments later, across the stars, a message spread through the channels of the Galactic Council. Han's voice echoed through every screen and relay. "This is Captain Han Siak of Earth. We received the distress call from the Varn people. They begged for help. We answered, if the Dominion comes again, they will face us. If any world cries for mercy, they will not cry alone." Silence followed his words. Some watched in awe, others in fear. The humans had declared themselves protectors in a galaxy ruled by politics and fear. The Varn wept in gratitude, bowing before the soldiers who had come to save them. But Han felt no pride, only resolve. That night, he stood alone on a hill overlooking the ruined city. The stars were distant and cold. Ariam joined him quietly. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked. Han looked up at the stars. "Yes," he said. "But this isn't the end. You saw how easily they destroyed this world. There are others out there. We can't stop now," Ariam nodded. "Then we fight for them all." He smiled faintly. "That's the plan." Behind them, the humans worked through the night, repairing ships and helping the wounded. The firelight reflected in their eyes. They were far from home, but not lost. They were building something new, an alliance born from mercy, but forged in war. Above, the Dihan's glory orbited silently, its hull gleaming in the dawn light. It had become more than a warship now. It was a symbol, a promise that humanity had stepped into the stars not as conquerors, but as defenders who would never ignore a cry for help again. And far beyond, in the dark corners of the galaxy, the Threx Dominion listened. For the first time in their history, they felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The humans stayed on Vareth for several days, repairing ships and helping the Varn rebuild. Captain Han Seok walked among the survivors, listening to their stories of loss. Children had lost their parents, cities had been destroyed, and hope seemed like a distant memory. Yet the humans brought a new kind of hope, one that could not be destroyed by fire or steel. Ariam coordinated supply drops and medical care. She worked tirelessly, moving between hospitals and camps, making sure every Varn received what they needed. Even in the darkest moments, her calm demeanor reassured both humans and aliens. Her quiet strength was like a shield around the survivors. Han met with the Varn leaders in a temporary command center. They discussed strategy, though the Varn were too weak to fight back without help. Han promised them protection, but he also knew that waiting would only invite more attacks from the Threx Dominion. Humanity could not stand still. They had to act. The first target was a Threx forward station on the edge of Vareth's orbit. The station had been used to coordinate attacks on the planet and control Threx patrols. Han prepared a small fleet, including the Dihan's glory, for the strike. Ariam plotted the course and calculated the attack vectors. They moved like clockwork, knowing that any mistake could cost lives. As the human ships approached, Threx scouts detected them and sent messages to the main fleet. The humans did not wait for reinforcements. They attacked immediately. The railguns of Dihan's glory struck first, piercing the thick armor of the Threx ships. Plasma cannons followed, burning through enemy shields. Explosions lit up the void like fireworks. On the bridge, Han gave orders with precision. "Keep pressure on them. Focus on their communications arrays first. Disable their coordination. Then we destroy the station." Ariam replied calmly. "Arrays targeted. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The arrays were obliterated, leaving the Threx fighters confused and disorganized. Human shuttles descended to the station's surface to secure any survivors. They found few, but those they found were freed immediately. It was a small victory, but it sent a clear message to the Threx. Humans had come to fight. Back at the temporary command center, the Varn watched the battle through communication links. Their eyes widened as they saw the human ships move with deadly efficiency. For the first time, they felt the power of someone willing to fight for them without hesitation. Later, Han and Ariam analyzed the battle. "They underestimated us," Han said. "They thought humans would hesitate." "They were wrong," Ariam nodded. "This is only the beginning. If we want to save Vareth, we need to take the fight to their main fleet. We can't wait for them to strike again." Meanwhile, the Threx Dominion scrambled to regroup. Their commanders were shocked by the humans' speed and precision. Never before had a new species attacked so quickly, so effectively. They began to underestimate humanity at their peril. The next days were spent preparing for a larger engagement. Humans and Varn worked together to repair ships and share intelligence. Hyun, a young strategist, joined Han and Ariam to provide tactical advice. He was known for his sharp mind and careful planning. Together, they mapped out the enemy positions and planned a coordinated strike. Han held a meeting with the officers. "We know where their fleet is concentrated," he said. "We will split into 2 groups. Group 1 will strike the supply lines. Group 2 will engage the main fleet. We hit them fast and hard, no mercy. We save the Varn and show the Threx what humanity is capable of." The human crews nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. They had faced danger before, but nothing like this. Every human understood the risk, but they also understood their duty. They were not only soldiers, they were protectors of a species that had nowhere else to turn. As the fleet moved into position, Han and Ariam looked at each other on the bridge. "Ready?" Han asked. Ariam gave a small smile. "Always." The first wave hit the Threx supply lines. Human ships moved in patterns that the Threx could not predict. Cargo ships exploded, taking enemy reinforcements with them. Orbital stations were destroyed. The Threx scrambled to respond, but they were always one step behind. The main fleet engaged next. It was a larger force, but the humans had the advantage of surprise and coordination. Han led the charge, maneuvering Dahan's glory through the enemy lines. Each strike was precise, each movement calculated. The Threx were forced to retreat in disorder. From the command center, Ariam coordinated attacks and relayed information. "They're breaking formation." "Keep pushing," she said. The battle lasted for hours. Explosions lit up the dark expanse of space. Ships fell one after another. Finally, the remaining Threx ships retreated, leaving the humans victorious once again. Though exhausted, the crew celebrated quietly, knowing that the victory meant lives saved. After the battle, Han called a meeting with the Varn leaders. They thanked the humans with tears in their eyes. "You came when no one else would," one elder said. "We owe you everything." Han shook his head. "You owe us nothing. We fight because it is right. We cannot ignore a cry for help." At night, the humans gathered on the surface to rest. Fires burned softly, and the wind carried the scent of rebuilding. Ariam sat beside Han, looking at the stars. "They will come back," she said. "The Threx won't stop," Han nodded. "Then we'll be ready. This is our promise to them and to ourselves. Humanity will not fail those who cannot protect themselves." The Varn slept with a sense of safety for the first time in years. They had been saved by a species that fought like no other, and that fight had only just begun. The humans knew that more battles awaited, but they faced them with courage and resolve. Every day was a step toward freedom for the Varn, and toward proving humanity's place in the galaxy. As dawn broke over the ruined cities, Han, Ariam, and Hyun looked toward the horizon. The fires of the previous battles still smoldered, but the light of hope had returned. Humanity had answered the call. They had shown what they were capable of, and the Threx Dominion would soon learn the full meaning of human wrath and mercy. The news of human victories on Vareth spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Threx Dominion could not ignore the rising threat. Their spies reported that the humans were not only rescuing the Varn, but actively destroying Threx forces and stations. Panic spread among the Dominion's commanders. Never had they faced an enemy that attacked without hesitation and struck with total precision. On Earth, the United Earth Command held a council meeting. Scientists, diplomats, and military leaders gathered, all watching the data streaming from Vareth. Captain Han Seok and his second-in-command, Kim Ariam, presented detailed reports. The evidence was clear. Humanity could no longer remain on the sidelines of galactic conflict. Their actions were shifting the balance of power. Hyun, the young strategist, stood at the front of the room. He pointed at a holomap displaying the Threx fleet positions. "If we coordinate our attacks carefully, we can cripple the Dominion's core worlds. The key is to split their forces, strike supply lines, and then move against their main strongholds." The council hesitated. Diplomats warned against angering the Threx further, while military leaders argued that waiting would only give the enemy time to regroup. Han Seok spoke last. His voice was firm, steady, and carried the weight of authority. "We cannot wait. Every day we hesitate, more worlds fall. The Varn begged for help, and we answered. There are others out there who will cry for help. If we hesitate now, we fail them. Humanity will not fail." The council finally agreed. A larger fleet would be prepared, combining Earth's advanced technology with the tactical minds of Han, Ariam, and Hyun. They would lead an offensive unlike any the galaxy had seen. Back on Vareth, Han walked among the Varn civilians. Children played among the ruins, soldiers trained to defend their cities, and survivors looked to the humans with hope. Ariam briefed him on the fleet status. "We have enough ships to begin our first full offensive. The crew is ready and supplies are stocked." Han nodded. "Then we strike. We cannot let the Threx believe victory is possible." The human fleet jumped into the Threx-controlled space. It was massive now, composed of multiple ships. Dahan's Glory, Hwarang, Iron Rain, Dawn's Edge, and dozens of support vessels. Every ship carried the pride of Earth and the resolve of a species determined to protect the helpless. The first strike targeted Threx supply depots orbiting a barren moon. Human ships moved with precision, disabling orbital defenses, destroying supply ships, and cutting communication lines. The Threx were caught off guard, their fleet scattered and uncoordinated. Human pilots flew with skill and courage, striking from angles no one had predicted. On board Dahan's Glory, Han watched the battle unfold through the main display. "Focus fire on their reinforcements. Do not give them time to organize," he ordered. Ariam relayed commands to the fleet. Weapons charged. Firing in sequence. Spread their forces apart. Explosions erupted across space. Threx ships broke apart, burning in silence against the stars. Even the most experienced Threx commanders had never seen such ruthless efficiency. Humanity had become a storm they could not withstand. After the initial assault, the fleet regrouped near a captured station. Han, Ariam, and Hyun analyzed data, planning the next phase. Hyun suggested using psychological warfare. Broadcast images of their losses and human retaliation across Threx-controlled systems. Let them know resistance is useless and mercy is possible if they surrender their enslaved peoples. Han agreed. Do it. They need to understand humanity is unlike any enemy they have faced. The broadcast spread quickly. Threx civilians and soldiers watched images of destroyed ships, freed prisoners, and humans standing amid ruin, helping those they saved. Fear spread through the Dominion. The humans were no longer unknown. They were legends in motion. While the broadcast caused panic, the human fleet pressed onward. They moved to attack the Threx main fleet, now concentrated near a heavily fortified star system. The fleet's size was intimidating, but the humans had strategy, discipline, and the willingness to sacrifice when necessary. As the battle began, Dahan's Glory led the charge. Railguns tore through enemy hulls, plasma cannons created cascading explosions, and fighter wings engaged in close combat. Han gave orders with calm precision, while Ariam coordinated orbital strikes and ground-based operations. Hyun monitored enemy movements, predicting their reactions with uncanny accuracy. Hours passed, the battle raging with intensity that left space scarred with fire and debris. Threx ships fell one by one, their formations broken. Humanity's efficiency and ruthlessness became clear to all who watched. Finally, the surviving Threx ships retreated. The human fleet held the system. The galaxy was beginning to take notice. The Varn, who had first called for help, cheered at the sight of human ships dominating the enemy. They had been saved by a species willing to fight not for conquest, but for mercy and justice. Back on Dahan's Glory, Han met with Ariam and Hyun. They stood silently for a moment, looking at the stars littered with the wreckage of the Threx. Han broke the silence. They thought we would hesitate. They were wrong. And now every world they control will know what it means to provoke humanity. Ariam nodded. This is more than victory. This is warning, Hyun added, and it is a promise that no species will stand alone while humanity can help. The humans returned to the Varn homeworld briefly, to give survivors time to recover and rebuild. The Varn expressed their endless gratitude, yet they also understood the larger war had only just begun. Han and Ariam reassured them. We will return, Han said, and we will not stop until you are safe. The humans prepared for the next offensive, knowing that the Threx Dominion would retaliate fiercely. Every crew member understood the risks, but none wavered. Humanity's strength was not in numbers alone, but in courage, intelligence, and the unshakable will to protect the helpless. The Galactic Council took notice of humanity's actions. Some envoys praised them for bravery and moral resolve, while others feared their growing power. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as a child, but as a force capable of reshaping the rules of war and diplomacy. As Han stood on the bridge of Dahan's Glory, staring at the horizon filled with distant stars and remnants of battle, he whispered to Ariam. This is just the beginning. We answer every cry for help, no matter the cost. Ariam, her eyes fixed on the stars, replied, Then we fight, Captain. For them, for us, and for every world that cannot fight alone. Above, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. The human fleet moved steadily through Threx-controlled space. Each jump through the relay gates brought them closer to the heart of the Dominion. Captain Han Siak stood on the bridge of Dahan's Glory, studying the map of the Threx systems. Beside him, Kim Ariam monitored the communications channels and coordinated the fleet's movement. Hyun analyzed intelligence reports predicting enemy strategies before they could act. The first step of the offensive was to cut the Threx supply lines completely. Humanity struck with swift and overwhelming force. Convoys were destroyed, refueling stations obliterated, and enemy reinforcements scattered. The Threx were unprepared for the combination of speed, precision, and brutality. For every move they attempted, the humans had a counter. Target the main convoy, Han ordered. Do not let them regroup. We move fast, we strike hard, and we do not stop. Ariam nodded, her fingers dancing over the control panels. Weapons online. Launching intercept drones. The drones moved like swarms of silver hornets, tearing through Threx ships before they could react. Plasma fire lit up the darkness, and railguns tore through thick armor. The Threx forces were in chaos. Their commanders struggled to coordinate, but it was too late. Humanity had seized the advantage. After the initial victory, the fleet advanced toward a Threx fortress world. It was heavily defended, with orbital cannons and countless ships in orbit. The humans did not falter. They divided the fleet, with diversionary attacks to confuse the defenders while the main force struck the weak points. Han led the assault personally. Dahan's Glory darted between enemy fire, her shields holding against the blows. Ariam coordinated orbital bombardments, timing them with precision to break the enemy's formations. Hyun predicted the Threx maneuvers, guiding the fleet through dangerous zones. Hours passed in a battle that burned across the void. Explosions shook the stars, and entire fleets disappeared in flashes of fire. The Threx fought fiercely, but they could not withstand the human strategy. Their ships fell one by one, and their orbital defenses collapsed under the relentless assault. Finally, the surface of the fortress world was exposed. Human ground forces deployed to secure key installations. The Varn had volunteered to help, guided by the humans who had saved them. They moved together, reclaiming cities, freeing prisoners, and destroying Threx war machines. The Threx had no choice but to surrender, their pride shattered. Han surveyed the battlefield from a ridge near the main control center. The Varn looked on, some with tears in their eyes, others with expressions of awe. We did this together, he said. You have your world back, but remember, this is only the beginning. The Dominion will strike again, but we will be ready. Ariam joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. They will fear us now, not just our strength, but our resolve. Humanity does not retreat. Hyun approached with a report. The remaining Threx forces are retreating to their core systems. Their morale is broken. If we press the advantage, we can liberate their worlds without delay. Han nodded. Then we press forward. Every world that suffers will know that we are coming. The fleet advanced, moving from system to system. Threx-controlled worlds fell one after another, as humans combined orbital bombardments with ground operations. Each victory sent a message across the galaxy. Humanity answered calls for help with total war. The Dominion realized that they had underestimated an enemy unlike any they had faced before. On one liberated world, humans set up temporary bases to protect civilians and stabilize the planet. The Varn assisted, helping teach the survivors how to rebuild and defend themselves. Han and Ariam visited each camp, offering encouragement and reassurance. They were leaders, but also symbols of hope. Meanwhile, the Threx scrambled to mount counterattacks, but the humans were always faster, always smarter. Hyun's strategies anticipated their every move. Every ambush was turned against them, every fleet destroyed or scattered. The Threx were beginning to understand that human warfare was not just about weapons, but about intelligence, coordination, and the willingness to act decisively. Back on Dahan's Glory, Han and Ariam discussed the next target. We have weakened their outer systems, Han said. Now we go for their core. The Dominion's leaders must see that humanity will not stop. Ariam studied the map. It will be dangerous, but it is necessary. The sooner we strike, the sooner their people are free, and the sooner the Dominion falls. As the fleet approached the core systems, transmissions from the Threx became frantic. They tried to negotiate, to stall, to frighten the humans into retreat. But Han ignored the messages. Mercy had limits, and the Threx had broken the lives of countless innocent beings. Humanity would not yield. The battle for the core began with an unprecedented display of human tactics. Diversion fleets, precision strikes, and psychological operations worked together in harmony. Threx fleets were destroyed before they could organize. Entire cities were liberated, prisoners freed, and war factories obliterated. The Dominion was crumbling. After weeks of relentless campaigns, the Threx leadership finally sent a surrender message. Han read it carefully, consulting with Ariam and Hyun. "We accept their surrender," he said, "but only on the condition that all enslaved beings are freed and that they dismantle their war machines." The terms were met. The Threx Dominion collapsed. Worlds that had been under oppression for centuries began to breathe freely again. Humanity had not only answered the call for help, but had reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy. The Varn celebrated their freedom, and other species began to see humanity as a force of protection and justice. Han stood on the bridge, watching the stars. Ariam joined him silently. "We have done what we came to do," she said. Han nodded. "Yes, but the galaxy will remember us now. Some will fear us, some will follow us. We answered their cries with total war, and we will continue to stand for those who cannot fight for themselves." The fires of war slowly faded, leaving a new era of hope and vigilance. Humanity had proven that they were not to be underestimated. They fought with strength, mercy, and determination. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of humans, not as conquerors, but as guardians who answered the call of those in need. The stars were quiet now, but the promise of humanity's resolve shone brightly, lighting the path for all who would follow. The war was over, but the galaxy was forever changed. The Threx Dominion had fallen, their fleets scattered and their worlds liberated. Humanity stood victorious not as conquerors, but as saviors who had answered the cries for help with unmatched force. Captain Han Sok and his crew on Daehan's Glory looked out at the stars, knowing that the victory had come at a great cost, but it had been necessary. Varn leaders gathered to express their gratitude. Tears flowed freely as they spoke of the horrors they had endured and the hope humanity had brought. Han listened quietly, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Every life saved had been a life at risk, but none of it mattered if those who could not defend themselves remained helpless. Ariam moved among the survivors, checking on the wounded and organizing supplies. She spoke to each Varn with warmth, offering reassurance and kindness. Her presence was a reminder that humanity's power was tempered with compassion, a balance that the galaxy had never seen before. Hyun analyzed the remnants of the Threx command networks. "They are broken beyond repair," he said. "No system can coordinate a counterattack. If we act carefully, we can stabilize the liberated worlds and prevent future threats." Han nodded. "Then we will. But we also leave behind forces to protect these worlds. They must never feel alone again." The Galactic Council watched with a mix of awe and fear. Some envoys admired humanity's decisiveness and moral strength, while others whispered that such power was dangerous. Humanity had stepped beyond the role of observer and claimed its place as a force to be reckoned with. The Council's hesitation would not matter. The humans had acted, and the galaxy had seen their might. Bases were established on key worlds to maintain peace and assist in rebuilding. Human engineers and soldiers worked alongside local populations, restoring infrastructure, training defense units, and sharing knowledge. The Varn, who had once begged for help, now worked side by side with their saviors, gaining strength and confidence. Ariam and Hyun oversaw these operations, ensuring that every step was taken carefully. Han met with local leaders, listening to their concerns and offering guidance. "We will not rule your worlds," he said, "but we will protect them. Never again will you face destruction alone." The Threx, defeated and scattered, had no choice but to comply. They dismantled their war machines and released all enslaved beings. The liberated species were given the chance to rebuild, to reclaim their cultures, and to heal. Humanity had delivered justice with both strength and restraint, a combination that left an indelible mark across the stars. Despite victory, Han knew the cost of war was not easily measured. Lives had been lost, planets scarred, and the galaxy had changed irreversibly. But for every life saved and every world freed, humanity's resolve had been proven. They would never ignore a plea for help again, no matter the danger or distance. In the aftermath, Han stood on a hill overlooking a recovering city. Varn children played among the ruins, their laughter filling the air with hope. Ariam joined him, and together they watched as humanity's presence brought life and order where only chaos had existed. "They will remember this," Ariam said quietly. "They will remember the humans who came and saved them." Han nodded. "They will. But more than that, they will know that they are never truly alone. We answered their cries, and we will continue to answer others in need." Hyun approached with a report from the fleet. "The last of the Threx remnants have been neutralized. The galaxy is quiet, at least for now." Han placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we prepare for the future. The galaxy may always have threats, but humanity will stand as a shield for those who cannot defend themselves. That is our promise." As the human fleets began patrols to protect liberated systems, news of humanity's actions spread across the stars. Some hailed them as heroes. Others feared their power, but all knew that humans were no longer a minor species. They had shown the galaxy that compassion and strength could coexist, that mercy could be delivered with force, and that no call for help would go unanswered. On a quiet evening, Han stood on the bridge of Dahan's glory, staring at the stars. Ariam joined him, silent and contemplative. "Do you think they understand what we have done?" she asked. Han shook his head slightly. "Some will, some will not. But it does not matter. We do not act for recognition. We act because it is right. We answer the cries for help, and we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." A gentle wind blew across the city below, carrying with it the scent of rebuilding and hope. Han watched the horizon, thinking of the lives saved, the planets restored, and the future ahead. Humanity had changed the galaxy not through conquest, but through the willingness to stand for justice, to fight with total commitment, and to protect those who could not protect themselves. "They begged for help," he whispered, "and we answered as only humans can." Around him, life continued to grow and heal. The Varn were free. Other species began to see hope in humanity, and the galaxy slowly adjusted to a new era. Humanity's total war had brought liberation, and in its wake, a lasting promise. No voice in need would ever go unheard again.